Hello, so I wanted to talk to you today about what could be the biggest story in global finance. And that story is China's gold. How much gold does China really have? And what are the implications? Now, gold divides opinion almost as much as Brexit. And the importance of this story kind of depends on your view of gold. For some, gold is antiquated. It's as irrelevant to modern global finances as the horse is to transport. And central banks only own gold out of tradition, long-term tradition, as Ben Bernanke, former head of the Federal Reserve, said in Congress back in 2011. But for others, gold is money, the oldest, purest and soundest money there is. And he who owns the gold makes the rules, as the old saying goes. Now, I kind of get both points of view. Now, gold makes up 77% of US foreign exchange reserves, and that's rather a high allocation for a mere tradition. And official records show it owns some 8,100 tonnes of gold. Most of it is held in Fort Knox, although that gold in Fort Knox hasn't been audited in some 50 years. But anyway, the US is the world's largest gold owner, and the US pretty much does make the rules. It has the world's most powerful military and its largest economy. But there is a mighty new kid on the block in the form of China. Its economy, some argue, is already as big as America's. Certainly, if looked at in terms of purchasing power parity, it is. China's army is bigger. It may not yet be as powerful, but that day can't be far away. And then there's China's gold. Now, I'm of the view that China has considerably more than it says it does. We know that over the past decade, China's been both importing extraordinary amounts as well as mining it. And when you crunch some numbers, as I'm about to do here, you realise that its gold holdings are as rivalrous to the US as its economy and its military. So let's start with some context. Here, thanks to the World Gold Council, we can see it's a table of the world's largest gold owners, the world's largest central bank gold owners, I should say. And in total central bank gold reserves stand at about 34,500 tonnes. And that would be about 20% of all the gold there is in the world. Because remember, gold never gets consumed, so all the gold that's ever been mined still exists in the world in some form or other. You know, oil or copper gets consumed, gold doesn't. And so central bank gold holdings account for about 20% of all the gold there is in the world. And top of the pile, we have the United States, the world's largest gold owner, 8,133 tonnes, 77% of its foreign exchange reserves. Next, we have Germany, the IMF, Italy. Now, I say this as someone who's part Italian. I don't believe that Italy's stated 2,451 tonnes of gold are still there, but, you know, who knows? We go down the list, France, Russia. Russia's been accumulating considerable amounts. And then we have China there, 1,948 tonnes apparently, about a quarter of what America has. And that 1,948 tonnes would make up about 3% of China's foreign exchange reserves, compared to, you know, Russia's gold, 20% of its foreign exchange reserves. France's gold, 63% of its foreign exchange reserves. So that's an extraordinarily low number. China, of course, has about over 3 trillion US dollars. Anyway, we go down the list and we Switzerland, Japan, India, Netherlands, the ECB, and then all the way down in 17th place, standing below Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, we have the United Kingdom with just 310 tonnes of gold. But we're beating Lebanon. So let's now try and calculate what China really has. And we'll start with China's production, what it has mined. South Africa had for over 100 years been the world's largest gold producer. But in 2007, it was overtaken by China, which produced 2,276 tonnes that year. And China's remained the world's largest gold producer ever since. And here you can see global gold production since 1960, and this black line is South Africa. Crikey, you can see it produced 1,000 tonnes of gold in 1970, but it's been in decline ever since. And here is that fateful year. This red line is China, so you can see it barely produced a thing all through the 70s, and after 1980 that production began to grow, and it's been growing and growing. And there it was that year in 2007, 2008, when it suddenly became the world's largest gold producer. Here we see China's annual gold production, courtesy of Nick Laird, since the 1930s, and we can see all through the first 3/4 of the 20th century it barely produced an ounce, and then gradually that after 1980 their production suddenly increased, and it's been growing every year since. 2007, 2008, it overtook South Africa and became the world's largest gold producer. And it actually peaked in 2016, 464 tonnes. That figure's estimated. It's actually the true figure was slightly higher, 464 tonnes. And this year's production actually declined a little. It went back to 400 tonnes, but it's still almost 100 tonnes larger than the world's next largest producer, which is Australia. And over the past decade, China has produced around 15% of all the gold mined in the world. But here's the thing. China keeps all the gold that it mines. Exporting domestic mine production is not allowed. China does export some gold. I've got a Chinese panda myself, but not its domestic production. And in any case, its exports are minimal. It's less than 5% of its imports. In August, for example, 2019, this year, it imported 80 tonnes and it exported just 1. In September, it exported 1.8 tonnes. In total, since 2000, China has mined some 6,057 tonnes. Not all of the gold will end up in government hands, of course, but already that's way more than that 1,948 tonne figure, over 6,000 tonnes. And in fact, more than 50% of Chinese gold production is state-owned. China National Gold Corp, just that one company alone, accounts for 20%. And despite ramping up production, Chinese reserves are dwindling. And so Chinese mining companies are now mining abroad. And state-owned Shandong Gold has expanded into Argentina, Kyrgyzstan, Congo-Brazzaville, Ecuador. It's invested in listed mining companies in Australia, in Canada. Zijin Mining Group has operations in Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Australia, New Zealand, the Democratic Republic of Congo. And its international production exceeded its domestic production by 16 tonnes last year. Now, as well as being the world's largest gold producer, China has also become the world's largest gold importer. It began ramping up its imports in 2010, and in 2014 it overtook India. We think India is the biggest importer. China is, overtaking India 2014 to become number one. And China imports its gold from Hong Kong, Switzerland, London, Australia and Singapore. And it's really difficult to get precise figures because many of these are over-the-counter trades. But Hong Kong does provide numbers, and we know that another 6,000 tonnes has entered the country via Hong Kong since 2000, most of it this decade. So already we know there are 12,000 tonnes in China. Now, even if we can't get precise figures for over-the-counter trades, most of the gold that enters China is sold via the Shanghai Gold Exchange, whether it's imported, mined or recycled. So the Shanghai Gold Exchange can loosely act as something of a proxy for Chinese demand, Chinese consumption. And it is possible to get numbers for SGE withdrawals. And I can tell you that since 2008, an astonishing 18,500 tonnes have been withdrawn from the SGE. But we also have to factor into our thinking that the gold that was in China, whether as bullion or jewellery, prior to 2000. And the World Gold Council estimates that a figure of 2,500 tonnes in privately held jewellery. You've got to add in domestic mining and official reserves prior to 2000, and you arrive at a figure of around about 4,000 tonnes. Now, what happened to privately owned jewellery after the revolution? Did it remain private? Was it confiscated by the government and sold to import other goods, or maybe melted down and hoarded? A bit of everything is likely, but still, the agreed figure is 4,000 tonnes. So let's put all those numbers together. All the gold that's been produced in China, that's remained in China, all the gold that's been imported, all the gold that existed in China prior to 2000. And again, Nick Laird's put this chart together of cumulatively gold potentially held in China. And he's arrived at the figure of, I mean, it's just over 25,000 tonnes. And, I mean, just look at that growth since, the mid to late 2000s. And remember, that's when the gold narrative really took hold. That's when people started to think, hang on a minute, what is fiat money? That was around about the time that Bitcoin was invented. So you can only assume that the same narrative took hold in Chinese government. Now, I've consulted 4 different gold analysts in different locations around the world. Ross Norman, formerly of Sharps Pixley in London, Bron Suchetsky, once for the Perth Mint, Koos Janssen, Bullion Star, and Nick Laird, who runs Gold Charts for Us. And they all concur with that estimate of 20 to 25,000 tonnes. But both Janssen and Norman point out that there is still gold entering China that's not accounted for by SGE withdrawals. Often the People's Bank of China won't buy gold from the SGE, but from elsewhere. And there are various reasons for this. It likes 12.5 kilo bars, which don't trade on the Shanghai Gold Exchange. It likes to use dollars when the SGE sells its gold in yuan. And the SGE has actually stated that only consumers buy gold over its exchange, although in practice that doesn't seem to be the case. Now, the PBOC may also not like to disclose all of its gold purchases, which on the SGE it would have to do. It prefers monetary gold, which doesn't require disclosure on customs reports, and thus it will prefer over-the-counter exchanges, especially in London, Dubai and Switzerland, where less disclosure is required. And indeed, it's thought that the PBOC was on the other side of the trade when Gordon Brown was selling that infamous 400 tonnes of UK bullion at the turn of the century. China was buying it. And what's more, I've heard that from several different sources, and what's more, Ross Norman makes the point to me that not all China's state-owned gold is held by the PBOC. There are other state agencies which buy gold. The State Agency for Foreign Exchange, China's Investment Corporation, that's its sovereign wealth fund, and of course the military, which doesn't have to declare its purchases. So there are others that further increases the potential for state-owned holdings which aren't necessarily declared by the PBOC. And all in all, we're looking at a figure above 25,000 tonnes. The big question now is how much of that gold is in state hands and how much is privately owned, because China has encouraged the private accumulation of gold. Ross reckons it's 50-50. Bron Suchetsky, who's formerly of the Perth Mint, as I said, and he studies gold flows, he reckons private citizens are accumulating more like 55% of the gold flow. But whether it's 40% or 50% of 25,000 tonnes, state-owned gold is still considerably higher than the declared 1,948. Now, 20 to 25,000 tonnes in China is not far off the amount that's in the US, including the privately owned gold. That's what Nick Laird argues are total US gold holdings, official and private, somewhere between 20 and 25,000 tonnes. Ross Norman feels it's lower because it was illegal for US citizens to own gold in 1974, and then so much gold got exported in the cash for gold trade that was heavily pushed in the 2000s. And that scrap gold, by the way, also made its way to China. Now, why would China understate its gold reserves? Ross thinks it's because they don't want to embarrass America. They're not ready to do that yet. And They give the figures that they give to be credible. It gave them enough credibility to get included on the IMF's SDRs, but without issuing any challenge to the US. But this is a quote from Ross now. So much gold has been making its way to China without being declared, it really wouldn't surprise me to see official Chinese gold holdings at 10,000 or even 12,000 tonnes. Now, 10,000 tonnes would equate to about 11% of China's foreign exchange holdings, which is sort of about the international average. And in those terms, 10,000 tonnes is just not such an extraordinary number. But it is still more than American official gold holdings. And there's no way that China could declare such large official holdings because it would cause so much disruption on so many different fronts. In the forex markets, a yuan backed by gold can strengthen significantly when China doesn't want a strong yuan just yet. It wants the yuan low for trade purposes. Its $3 trillion plus of US dollar foreign exchange reserves would be dramatically devalued, which it almost certainly doesn't want. Again, not yet anyway. And then, of course, the gold price itself would be catapulted higher, which China probably doesn't want while it's still accumulating. So for all those reasons, it's understating its figures. But perhaps most of all, to declare that it had so much gold would be a direct challenge to American supremacy, almost a declaration of war. And China is not ready for that, not yet anyway. Maybe it will be one day, we'll see. Now, the word from the LBMA Gold Conference in Shenzhen last month is that China is now developing its own gold-backed yuan stablecoin. Now, I still struggle to believe that somewhere as authoritarian as China would want to cede control of its currency to gold. But if China really does have designs on the US dollar's status as the reserve currency of the world, gold is the way to do it. That's the way to give credibility to your money. And it's not like it's not going to have enough gold to sort of at least partially back the yuan. But if ever there was a symbol of the wealth of the world shifting from west to east, surely it's this incredible amount of gold making its way to China. And it almost certainly already has more gold than America. How long before it makes the rules? Thanks very much for watching, ladies and gents. I hope you found this interesting and informative. Please subscribe to my channel, and please also buy my new book. It's called Daylight Robbery: How Tax Has Shaped the Past and Will Change Our Future. It's published by Penguin Business, and it's all about the amazing story of tax, the past, present and future of taxation. It sounds dry, but I promise you it isn't.